everybody. Welcome to Talking Points with KPI. For those of you who don't know what KPI is, KPI stands for Kinetic Performance Institute. I am sitting down with the main two people in KPI. I will let them introduce themselves now.
I'm Eric Wagley, president of KPI, kind of oversee the business and systematic side of things.
I'm Dan Kowooling, director of strength and conditioning, operations, making sure everything's running on the floor.
And for those of you who don't know I am Noah Dobbin. I work at a company called Nomad VFP. I have recently been signed with KPI, and I'm very happy to continue all this content, and you guys are going to get a lot more from KPI. A good talking point for us to start with is, where did KPI start from?
It's kind of an interesting story, and it's still evolving, but individually we had our own things going on, and then we kind of merged. So I started baseball 9 years ago in Morgan Hill, not with any kind of grand vision on what it was going to be, just that we started with, the first thing was August of 2012. We started with a summer camp, and I think we had 13 kids there. And then we just ran some different stuff throughout the fall. One thing led to the next. I said we're never going to start teams, and then a few months later we were doing teams, and then I said we're never going to have a indoor facility because it was bad business. And a few months later we had our first indoor facility, which was in a hollowed out barn in rural Morgan Hill that had 2 tunnels, and everyone told me I was crazy for trying to open there. And then the evolution took us to our last location before KPI, where we were upstairs above a gymnastics center, and it was 118 degrees most days with no AC. And then Dan came along, and he'll talk about his side, but he kind of approached me, and he just moved back to California from Wisconsin, and said, hey, I want to do strength and conditioning with baseball players, and here's my resume. And at that point in time I had done all of our strength and conditioning with our older athletes, and kind of just, I guess, contracted out Dan, for lack of a better term, to kind of run it, and he gained our trust, and just slowly but surely we kind of handed over the reins to him, and then he was building his own business at the same time. And then it got to the point where it was we were existing separately but super intertwined. So then it was what are we doing? And so I think you can probably take over your side of things from there.
Yeah. So this all started. I'd been working at another facility out in Wisconsin. I helped open a baseball academy before that. That one failed. And then transitioned to this other facility, was more just S&C for baseball specifically, and then softball. And then I helped bring throwing programs to that by using driveline, high-level throwing, a couple different programs that are out there. And it just came to the point where it was time to move back to California. And so I had reached out to my father-in-law, a local dentist. My wife was a dentist also. And I was just like, hey, this is what I want to do. What do you suggest? I had sat down with a couple different facilities, a couple of different baseball academy owners. And just kind of got a lay of the land. I had a phone call with Doug Robb, and he connected with Eric and was like, hey, you sound like philosophically heavily aligned with what he's doing, what he's trying to build, and I think you should just go check it out. It's down in Morgan Hill. I had no clue. I grew up in Southern California. So
you guys had never had any communication prior to you coming to California?
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct. Yeah, I grew up in Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
So the concept of Morgan Hill versus San Jose, a lot of people, it's such a long drive. It's 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's, in my mind, in Orange County, everything takes 20 minutes to get there. So I'm like, this is easy. It's not a big deal. So I sat down with Eric. I think at least from my recollection, the piece that really got him dialed is, okay, I've been building out arm care and lifting and speed, and I have one kid who shows up. He's also my best athlete. And I was like, okay, I specialize in buy-in. That is the most important component in this process, is getting kids bought into working hard. Give me the opportunity to build my own business. And that was a big thing for me. I'd been an employee up until that point, and I really understood what it meant to be an employee, but I wanted to be my own boss and try and build my own thing. And that's where ID3 training kind of came to be. So
yeah, so kind of ID3 and Dub. So kind of going back on the concept of KPI, where did that name originate from, and why did it come about? What was the mission statement that you wanted to get across when people read KPI and saw Kinetic Performance Institute?
It was definitely, it was just like everything else that's happened. It was super organic. So we were, like I said, we were existing, and we were getting very intertwined with what we were doing, but we were still separate entities. And then our lease was coming up in a few months. Yeah. And so there was almost a little bit of a forced issue, hey, we might have to move out of this building we're doing this kind of program and we're going a certain direction, but there was confusion. Like you didn't know when you walked into our building, who's the boss, Dan or Eric? Is it Dub or is ID3? Who do I pay? Like so, those two dynamics kind of forced us to have a conversation as far as like, hey, like, does it make sense to drop both names and make this a different thing that stood for something different? No teams, no only training, like one system that worked together. And then once we kind of got our head wrapped around that's the direction we were going to go, then it was about building the brand. And we with our old staff, we actually went through a series of workshops to build the KPI brand. Even the name, we didn't have the name KPI. That actually came from our facilities manager, Kaylin, because we were kicking around names. So we had this series of workshops where we just talked about some different topics, and Dan and I had like a game plan to go into this, and it was super organic and flowing, and we built the KPI brand, we built our mission statement, we built our values.
Yeah, I'd say I had shared a book with him that I had read preparing to start ID3. It was called Blue Ocean Strategy. And inherently with both travel baseball and a gym, you have pros and cons, just like any business. And the main theme of Blue Ocean Strategy is, okay, how can we take the pros of each entity and combine them to make something new? Where the pro of a baseball academy is, you need to play baseball. You need to go out and compete. You need to work on your skill development. You need to be a good pitcher. You need to know first and thirds and bunties. We need to know all that stuff. But travel ball is divisive, right? A big reason of the rebranding was everyone, that's the Dub facility. Or we don't go there because of whatever reason, right? Travel ball is divisive. The downside of the training is you can make an athlete bigger, faster, stronger, but they can't hit an 80 to 85 mile an hour fastball, or they can't throw strikes, or they're not good on the field, or they tweak their back because they're trying to chase a deadlifting PR. Yeah. That also doesn't help that athlete. And so the core premise, I think, for our mission statement is we want to do what's best for the athlete, and we have to set our egos aside. And I think from a business standpoint, we do that through the actions of, we put the athlete's needs at first. We left our egos at the door and said, hey, the best thing for the athletes in this area is KPI. Yeah. It's not just ID3, it's not just Dub baseball. It's this new thing that we want to grow.
Yeah. And so, I've been working here for 2 weeks now and being able to see you guys. You guys have a little different business structure than most training facilities. Kind of go into that a little bit.
If I'm being ultra honest, there's two sides of that. What Dan just said, putting the athletes first, always doing what's best for the athlete, like that's been the business model for 9 years. Like truly, I've been confident, like, oh man, you have such a good business model, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, that's the business model. And that, are we going to buy a hit tracks? Yes, because that's best for the athletes. Let's figure out how to do it. Are we going to hire a full-time strength coach? Yes, that's what's best for athletes. Let's figure out how to get that done. So that's been the business model. There is a business model being built now, but part of our mission statement is to provide as much value as possible. So that's where we're different. When we sit down and show people our facility and we go through an assessment and we talk about everything, and then we tell them the price, people's jaw drop, that it's as cheap as it is. And it's not because we're not providing great, it's just, it is inherently who we are to provide value.
Yeah, I think the structure is set to be as similar to like a collegiate or a professional feel, where every athlete comes in, we run a semi-private training environment. And what that does is it allows us to work with more athletes, but it significantly drops the price that you're going to pay. Where our price point is between $30 and $60 per session, and you're going to be in the session in our facility for at least 90 minutes, if not upwards of 2.5 hours. Mm-hmm. We don't kick any athletes out either, too. If you're going to be here and you're going to work and you're going to get better, we want you in our facility as much as possible, and for as long as possible. And because we know the athletes that are in our facility doing our training, they usually get the best results.
It's a one-stop shop. Yeah. You don't need a personal trainer and a hitting coach and a nutritionist. Like, you can literally walk in our building and get everything you need for your development while also having the most technology available to you, while in a family kind of team style environment. We don't have teams in here, but it feels like the KPI crew is a team, and that's definitely intentional.
I think that's where that KPI, I don't want to cut you off, that KPI, why we went with KPI is the shortened version is when going back to the start, it literally started with T-work and hitting into radar guns. And that's really all I knew at the time. Then it went to blast. Then it went to hit tracks. Then it went to KVS. Then it went to Rapsodo. And so as we integrated all this technology, we were like, man, like we know what these key performance indicators, KPI, what they are for athletes. We need to revolve around these metrics and build systems around developing them and giving them the tools to go out and compete with on the field.
Absolutely, and you guys have done that, and you've created that system for these athletes. But that also has created a lot of intake for you guys. You're getting so many people that want to come try out this new form of training, I guess you can call it. How has that been from a business standpoint for KPI starting only a year ago, being able to get so many people in and you guys handling it so well? Has it been more of a struggle, or it's just like we just got to get it done, we just got to make sure that these kids are all right?
All of the above. I mean, it's been wild. So, I mean, we'll be 1 year old in 2 weeks. October 1st is when we officially open. So, it's been a struggle since then on a few different angles. As far as like the move was brutal. Like it was tough, and it still is. Like there's still little things that popped up that we haven't completed with our move. So it was a really tough couple of months, and we decided to move during COVID. So that was tough, and we were having some permit battles with the city, and that was tough. And all the while, we were still the head coaches of everything, and we were still the ones on the floor 100% of the time. So our saving grace has been our staff. Like we finally got to the point where we had a crew that could handle things and run our system, and then we could step back at different moments in time. And that's taken a lot for me personally to be able to do that. Because for the last 8.5 years, I was a head coach of everything, and then now it's been like, okay, I can sit back and run a business and then just make sure systems are being implemented. So the demand has been insane. We have, we're just talking yesterday about more people being able to run assessments besides Dan, because our assessments are booked out for a month right now. We've sold out every single thing we've done thus far. So it's been a wild and crazy year, but then you kind of look at where we are and it's pretty incredible.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd say the other component on top of that, our staff as a whole, and we'll go into more depth with our coaches, we have amazing families. I think that's with a huge positive of Dub is that family-driven, relationship-driven focus. And so the support of all of the families, new and old, families who've been around for, all 9 years, right? Like all 9 years, their kids are still training with us. And then to that family that's brand new, loves what we're doing and wants to help us grow our business and send athletes our way, I think that is also a huge component of this growth. And it's, I think the final component of that is we would not have the growth if the athletes weren't getting better. And it's not a testament to us.
Absolutely.
It's not a testament to our training. It's not a testament to the tech, any of those tools. It is a complete testament to those athletes going and freaking working their tails off. Mm-hmm. And so we wouldn't be able to have a family go, hey, I saw so-and-so, and he crushed it last spring. What would he, he was at KPI, I want to go in. I want to get an assessment. So if the athletes themselves aren't buying into our training and training really, really hard and getting better, none of this happens, I think, without that.
Being able to see the progress is what makes them want to come back.
And that's really a differentiator for us, and how we separate ourselves from maybe someone who gives lessons or even a team environment to a certain extent, as we hold ourselves accountable to the numbers. And so I'm sure that'll come up in some future podcasts as far as like our systems and stuff like that. But yeah, we show our work, and when we prove to everyone like, hey, this is how you're getting better. And then like Dan said, they go out and crush it on the field, and then everyone wants to come, and that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah.
So you talked about a little bit about your crew. You call the KPI crew. You see it on the hashtags on all the social media. Talk a little bit about that. How did that start? I mean, you said you kind of the business came booming, and you had to get other people that you could rely on. So what were you looking for in that moment?
We got lucky with our crew as far as the staff goes, and then obviously the athletes are the other side of the crew. But as far as the staff goes, during COVID, obviously minor league baseball wasn't happening, and so Chase was with the Cubs, and we had on our previous version of this podcast, Chris Valleca on, who's the Cubs hitting coordinator, on our podcast, and we had a great conversation. He told Chase like, hey, these guys are in your area, you might as well go see if they need some help. And we did, and so Chase came on and just organically kind of morphed into him being the hitting director. And if I'm being very honest, though, I've been pretty tough on hitting coaches throughout the years, and that's the first one that's stuck around for more than about 6 months. So he's fantastic and he's doing great. And then as far as Justin goes, Justin trained with Dan. He's a Morgan Hill kid, so I knew him pretty well. He played a little bit with Dub in the past, and then he walked through the door and was like, I was. At that point in time, the pitching coach, while we're kind of opening KPI and running throughout the winter, and I was like, yeah, come on, come help. And then, he's so awesome that he's allowed me to take my baby, which is pitching. Like that truly is, my baby. And just like, I kind of just almost completely handed it off to him. Kaylin was working for Dan at IB3, and so she's been she's been our hub and our band-aid for everything. She even fixes some pitching machines because we're not capable of it. So yeah, she's our core, you know, and as far as doing customer service now and running the facility and stuff like that. And then Curtis also kind of came through a contact with Tiger Peterson working for us, who's in the same kind of COVID thing. He wasn't working during COVID, so he was working with us. He's a Cardinals minor league, double A hitting coach, I think, this year. And then he was friends with Curtis, and Curtis was living in Gilroy, and he just kind of came. So Curtis is now kind of leading up that field and youth charge, and so yeah, this crew plus all the other coaches just happened from it. Was like we were putting up job postings, you know, like it was just like it was connections and coming in walking in the building and having instant success.
Awesome. Yeah, I think the key piece, if we look at each of these coaches, was playing experience, whether it was in softball or baseball, and that, you know, varying degrees of levels and success and talent, and then I think that open-mindedness, the desire to, okay, hey, this is where I got to, and I have this desire to make sure athletes get to that point, if not beyond. I want to kind of pass on my knowledge, but I have an understanding, okay, this is what I know, this is what I believe, but I'm open to, okay, we need to continue to push ourselves, and we have to have that growth mindset. We talked a lot about all our coaches, and I think every single one of our coaches embodies that, where we all now, it's like this web of learning back and forth, of talking about, you know, force plates. We'll probably have an entire podcast on how we utilize those. That's been a huge change in the way we go about things. Or pitch design. I'm learning new things from Justin and Cam too. Cam's been a new addition, and he's an absolute rock star, and has really enabled Justin to then get out of the nitty gritty of the running the program. Obviously still on the floor, but starting to get into creating our pitching system and making it even more robust of where what's been at. So yeah, I think we've been very lucky with coaches, and I think that we've also had a lot of coaches who have been very patient with us. We are very we try to be as transparent as possible, but we are pretty straightforward. Hey, we're figuring this out as we go.
Being very genuine.
Yeah. Like I'm a strength and conditioning guy. I'm not a business person. You're a pitching guy. I'm not a business person. We're learning how to be leaders. We're learning how to run a business. We're learning how to be on the floor and not just manage athletes. We know how to do that, but then step back and manage coaches and make sure that they're doing what they need to do and being supported and growing in the direction we're going. I definitely think that there's a level of luck that we've definitely run into.
Oh, absolutely. So kind of coming from the business standpoint, you guys are very into technology, and a lot of facilities aren't doing that. They're staying away from it. They're kind of going old school because they believe that the data and all that kind of stuff can get mixy and you're not able to do a lot with it. You guys have taken the complete opposite approach and have said, give us all the data we can to try to help these athletes. And why is that?
Really, because, and Dan will explain this a little bit better than me, but it shows progress at all times. And where we've gotten to with our systems, and this took hundreds of hours of trial and error on Dan's side as far as like figuring out these systems and building our systems now, is what is the most important thing that affects health and success, you know? And then we build systems around those things. And so, you know, for our hitting system, for example, we have our pre-contact measurements that we know affect performance the most, and then we validate it with post-contact measurements. And so now we have this cohesive system that catches both sides of things, and we're able to be like, okay, like if the post-contact metrics aren't working, we can change the program on the front end, and we just kind of have this increased cross-validation going on. So the tech holds us all accountable. It holds athletes accountable, holds the coaches accountable. And a lot of people don't like it, if I'm being flat out honest, because they're scared of it. Yeah. Like, have I been coaching wrong for the last 20 years if I'm an old high school coach? Like, I don't want someone to come in here with a computer and tell me I'm wrong. Well, guess what? Like, it's okay to be wrong. Like, I've been wrong with things I've taught in the past. So the tech kind of encompasses our approach of like, hey, like we're going to be objective, not subjective. We're not going to guess. We do not guess in this building. Everything we do, we can prove to you works in the system. Yeah. Does that mean it's going to work 100% on the time on the field? Of course not. But we know, not with absolutes, but with strong generalities, that this is the case to be true.
Yeah, so I've said this in a recent assessment, and I don't think I'd summed it up as well. Part of our mission is the only limiting factor that we want is your work ethic, how hard are you willing to work, and then your belief. Like, do you believe that you're going to achieve your goals? Like, if those are the only two limiting factors to your ability to get better, we're going to be in a very good spot.
So that's a great topic. I don't mean to cut you off, but for these athletes that are coming into this building to KPI, that's something I think they need to hear. They need to hear what it takes to actually train here. Because there is a certain aspect that when you come in here, you're held to a certain standard. Now, granted, talent comes in all ranges, motion comes in all ranges and sizes, but you're still looking for the effort and the attitude to be put in and not get doubted just because you have lower numbers than your friends. Because like you said, the numbers will show that.
Yeah.
And don't get discouraged and keep working to build those numbers. And that's kind of what your business plan is kind of in.
And it's the reason, and this was another a point I wanted to hit on, is baseball as a sport, baseball and softball are so subjective. And we live in subjectiveness because it's easy. Mm-hmm. It's easy to go out and win tournaments if you just go to a crappy tournament. Yeah. It's easy to be either very successful or not very successful within the sport of baseball or softball. And so we want to remove that subjectiveness because we don't want this moving target. We don't want, I don't have any idea how good I am, or I think I'm really, really good, but I suck. Or I think I suck, and you're really, really good, or you could be really good. Yeah. And so if we make that focus of like, hey, the only things that are going to limit us is how hard are you willing to work? You know, I say this every assessment, like 168 hours in a week. How many of those hours you put forth to getting better? And then are you going to will yourself into being a good athlete, into being a good baseball player, softball player? That mentality piece is huge. And so I think that the data allows us, and then the technology allows us to validate, but it also allows us to motivate. It gives us indications to the athletes like, hey, that hard work you're putting in is getting better in the things we know are going to give you a chance for success in the field. It doesn't guarantee it. And we say this to a lot of families, like, and I say this to every family on their assessment day, we do not guarantee any success here. Because again, we know the game is subjective. You could be the biggest, fastest, best swing, throw gas, sliders wipe out, and you could go and an umpire says, I'm not going to call any strikes today. Mm-hmm. Or you could go and hit, and you got a D1 outfielder who runs down every single ball in the outfield, and you're going to be out every single time. And it's just, we know our process will not guarantee success in the game. It will increase your chances of success.
Now, having said all that, because we have some incredible athletes at trainer, we have top 2 pitchers in the state, we have a whole bunch of D1 commits. All those guys, almost to a T, are our hardest workers. Like, it's not an accident. They're the ones that are in here the most. We have kids driving from over an hour away. So the family down the street that says they don't have time to train, but then we see all these incredibly high-level athletes taking the time during the week to come down here and train. The proof is in the pudding. If you come in here and you work, you're going to get better.
It makes a difference. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think the last thing we can move on to the next talking point. Actions-wise, the way we implement this is every athlete has programming to do every single day. Whether it's just their warm-ups and their arm care, or it's a speed program to do at home, we give them all the tools. Again, the only limiting factors, are you willing to work, and are you willing to will yourself to get better?
And that's another thing I've noticed with your business model and how it works so well is that they come in and have the plan ready to go. A lot of facilities will have a kid come in and they don't know what they want to work on that day. You guys have a scheduled plan for these athletes. And being 16, 17, 18 years old, it makes it very easy for them to kind of, okay, what do I have to do today? Oh, it's right here on my phone. It makes it very easy for them to get the work done, be motivated to still get that work done. And obviously they'll have questions, but like you said, your crew and your coaches are very genuine in helping and wanting to motivate that.
And then you're training right next to someone that's ultra motivated as well, and you feed off each other.
Yeah.
So that's the magic right there.
Yeah, I'd say the only thing, and we can definitely go into the next one, is the only thing that we will promise is the environment that we create with our staff and with our facility. It will be top notch, and you will be immersed in a bunch of people who are working to get better and coaches who want you to get better. Like, that's the only thing that we have control over. And we're gonna pump the music, and we're gonna be chirping at you when you're trying to hit PR.
Yeah, we're gonna get after it.
Yeah, we're gonna pump those positive vibes as much as possible your way, and help that willing you towards your goals.
So one more question before I get into the last topic. So you guys had mentioned earlier you guys had started with hands-on everything. You guys had created your own business, you had created your own business, and you had started from the ground up. But now you're kind of getting away and kind of hands-on with the business factor. How is that affecting you guys with your work? Or is that helping you kind of learn a different side? Or is it kind of hindering you from one side?
I mean, it's full disclosure, it's been a struggle for me. Not going from being on the floor 100% of the time. I'm talking the floor of the gym, the floor of the baseball field, the floor of every tournament, like being there 100% of the time, to now being out there very little. Like we already explained, I think that our staff makes that really easy. I'm viewing it as a new challenge. We've done these things, we've created these awesome systems. now I'm going to figure out how to be a business guy. You know, again, we're going to figure out how to grow these things, and we're working together to kind of find our own little niche in running a business. And so, again, it's organic. Like there's no like, you do this. It's like, no, like, okay, like put people in the right positions and then figure out our strengths and weaknesses and then move forward. So, you know, I would be lying if I said that, oh yeah, this is no big deal. Like, it's been hard for me to get that kind of control of the development side of things, but I also know that we've pounded our head and worked so hard on these systems that they are tried and true, and you just need people to execute them, and they're executing them to a very high level out there on the floor.
Yeah, I'm still in that hybrid stage where I'm, you know, probably on the floor 30 to 40 hours a week training, working with athletes, and then I'll obviously have all the different admin stuff. So I just, right now in the mentality just to be a workaholic and
just get it all done. Just get it all done.
Just do what has to be done. That's how I view it every day. Like,
absolutely. So going into the last topic, so KPI, we obviously don't want to stop here. We obviously want to keep growing with content, with athletes, with coaches. What's the next step for you guys? Like, what does the future hold for KPI? Obviously, do we want to go into pro athletes? Do we want to expand our youth and foundation programs, building a fund? Like, let's talk about it all. Let's all what goes into that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've been meeting with some agents, and you know, the pro off season's coming, and there are a lot of professional players that are from this area. The Bay Area per capita pumps out the most major league players, so they're here. They kind of scattered out. There's no one around that does what we do. So the agents that have come in have been blown away. Like there's no one like you guys. So we're planning on kind of having that be more of a feature for us in the next few months, is getting professional athletes in the off season. So we're kind of taking the first steps in that. We want to expand our youth program a lot. You know, Dub started with youth teams and didn't have older teams, and we kind of built a foundation and let them grow up. And then since the flip in we now predominantly train high school athletes. And so since that flip over the last 2-3 years, we haven't given a ton of attention to our youth program. But now we have Curtis running the show, we have some great youth coaches. Now we're going to kind of revamp that and get more youth in here, particularly during the spring when we don't have our high school, pro, or college athletes that are all playing for their schools. So having that be that time of the year where we just rock the youth world, I think is a big focus for us as well.
Absolutely.
And then Dan can talk a little bit about our foundations program, and that's the next big one.
It's so funny when I sit down with families and they'll have siblings like, oh, do you train other athletes? And it's like, yeah, we have rugby, lacrosse, field hockey. We've had football, basketball, and really a lot of the athletes. We had a race car driver. As a local race car driver, like. It's actually easier to train those athletes because, well, depending on the sport, but because the skill demands of baseball are so high, you take a football player and you make them bigger, faster, stronger, they're probably going to be better on the field. If you take a basketball player and you add 2 to 3 inches of vert to their ability to dunk, okay, they're better. But you can do all those things and not necessarily make a baseball player. And I've already kind of hit that point. Yeah. So our foundations program is purely focused on it's kind of naturally going towards multi-sport athletes. Okay, do you need somewhere to train, get bigger, faster, stronger? Athletes who are injured. If you can't get into our youth program or our foundation or into our developmental program because you have some injury, right now they're becoming elbows and shoulder injuries are becoming really rampant. They're already rampant, but they're ramping up because people are getting out of the summer and they think I'm going to take August off and September off, but then fall ball starts and all of a sudden I get hurt. Our youth players are going into their growth spurts, so there's a lot of injury implications with that. We're getting to the point where we're getting orthos referring their patients to us, and we've unfortunately had to refer kids to orthos, but they're starting to send players our way because we've done such a good job with the athletes who have had to go through injuries. That's what our foundations program is kind of turning into. So we want to get into basketball, volleyball, football, like all those other sports because it honestly is much easier, and we have 2 weight rooms.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got 3 cages. We have 7 or 8 racks. Like we have plenty of space for those athletes. So
our approach with the force plates crossover into other sports is not a baseball thing with what we do with the force plates. So our force plates will increasingly become our hub of everything that we do in here, and we have plans to expand that. But as of right now, a football player, basketball player, anyone can walk in our facility, and we can plug and play them into our system based on the force plate data. It doesn't have to be baseball players.
For those of you listening, there will be more information on all the technology that is used in the facilities in later podcasts, in case you're wondering what Eric is talking about with force plates. But that sounds amazing. So there's a couple of things left. So you remote training in second location. So let's go into that a little bit.
As far as remote training goes, it's something that we're dabbling in. It probably is, we've taken on the establishment a little bit with this, the travel ball world and the training world and stuff like that. And I think our next take on might be the remote world, because there's some big players in the remote world, and some of their former athletes are actually coaching now. And there's a lot of disingenuousness, I guess, with the remote world. And so we're starting very slowly into that world, and we want to do it the KPI way, which is completely our way, the greatest product and the greatest value to that product. So we do have, 3 or 4 remote pitchers right now. We're just, again, taking this really slow, but as soon as we kind of master that system and are really confident, we'll roll that out on a much larger scale, because that's a market that is not providing a ton of value to athletes, but they're charging super high prices for it. So we're gonna get there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the remote training, the human aspect of this entire the relationship, right?
Yeah.
is super hard, and COVID forced us to do it via Zoom. All right, remote was all you could do, and it's good enough depending on who you are. I think ours, again, the KPI way, I like that. We want to do things and take away and like solve the problems that are issues. Like big issue is communication for remote training, being able to speak to my coach. And then the other is then the execution, the quality at which you're doing your program. How can we make sure that you're doing your deadlifts correctly, the same way that I can watch somebody in the weight room, or you're doing your throwing drills correctly, where you're not just going out to a field and just doing your drills and you have no clue.
Yeah.
How can we increase the supervision component that remote doesn't necessarily allow to do?
Absolutely.
As far as like the second location of the field, we are working on building the field, which we hope will be incredible. So we're slowly but surely getting there with some momentum. And then we have been approached about opening other locations already. And we are open to the idea, but also cautious, because we want to ensure 2 things. One, that we can repeat our system somewhere else. We don't want to just open a second location for the sake of opening a second location, to slap our name on it. Like
Just because it'll make you some more money.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's a good way to fail, and it's a good way to water down our brand. So we're very cognizant of that. And then 2, we have incredible systems here, and we've built that, and we've worked really hard on that. But the magic in here is the staff. So can we give someone else our system and have them try to copy it? Sure, I think we're at the point where we could do that, but can we copy what happens on that floor with our incredible staff? I don't think so. So we're not saying no to second locations, but we are gonna do it the right way. And if we ever do it, it's gonna be because we can. Those 2 things will be in place.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when it was back in '93, kids would ask, like, "Are you worried about this gym? Are you worried about that gym?" And I go, "No." This sounds super egotistical, but the truth is, nobody can replicate me. Nobody replicate him or our staff. We know that's the secret sauce is the coaching staff, their ability to connect with kids, get them bought in, and get them better. Nobody can replicate those coaches without actually stealing those coaches, and so that's that competition piece, or that ability to open a second location. We need to find more good people, more good coaches who want to take on this mission that we've already started, and that's going to be our limiting factor for our second location. All those other things are easy to figure out, but finding the right people. When we went through our building KPI, it was like getting the right people on the bus. We need all the right people on the bus, and then once we get them there, getting them into the right seats, and then making sure the bus is in the right direction. That's going to be our next lead.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for talking today. I mean, you guys have any last points? We think we covered it all.
No, look forward to kind of this, getting the podcast revamped, and we're not going to kind of treat this like a traditional podcast. We're going to do stories, and we're going to do coaches highlights and athlete highlights, and really paint the picture of what KPI is, not just put out how smart we are and how much we know about tech. We're going to have some of that, but we're going to bring people in to this facility and show what the KPI crew is, and not just pump out content.
Absolutely, and there's a different side of genuine being able to see that when you come in person, but we also want people to see that aren't able to reach us, and we won't be able to share that content like you said, but it's not just mindless content. We're not just putting it out there so people can see it and we get our views up. We want people to understand what we do, and we want people to understand how it works. So I think that was greatly said. Thank you guys for listening. Be on the lookout for more content throughout the week. Like Eric said, content is going to be there. It will not be mindless. So please be on the lookout. Podcast will be up this week, and they will be up every week after this. We're going to try to revamp it and give you guys what you like. This has been Talking Points with KPI. Please stay tuned.